Most people imagine the devil as a beast born in the dark, a creature of pure malice from the start. But the paradox of Shaitan is that he began as heaven's most devout worshipper. Before he was the adversary, he was Azazel, an entity defined by his total devotion. Unlike the angels, who were made of light and have no choice but to obey, Azazel was a jinn. Created from a smokeless fire, he possessed free will, meaning every prayer he offered was a conscious decision. For tens of thousands of years, Azazel chose nothing but obedience. He spent eons ascending the celestial hierarchy, outperforming every other entity through the sheer intensity of his worship. This devotion earned him a rank that blurred the lines of his nature. He became a guardian of heaven's treasures and was appointed as a teacher to the angels, essentially joining the inner circle of the divine court. But this spiritual peak was exactly where the angel lay. Holding the highest rank in the universe allowed him to secretly nurture the first fatal psychological flaw, a quiet, absolute sense of his own importance. The breaking point came when God created Adam, not from light or fire, but from common, sun-baked clay. When the command went out for the entire celestial court to bow to this new creation, the hierarchy was suddenly tested. Azazel refused. He looked at Adam's dirt-based origin and compared it to his own element of fire. He concluded that his superior material meant he could never be expected to bow to a creature he viewed as inferior. The fall was instantaneous. Stripped of his divine rank, Azazel was renamed Iblis, meaning the one who despairs, and Shaitan, the accursed outcast. He fell from the position of the angel's teacher to the status of a permanent exile. Facing an eternity of punishment, Shaitan didn't ask for mercy. He asked for a stay of execution, a respite until Judgment Day. He wanted time to prove that humanity was as ungrateful and weak as he believed them to be. God granted the time, but set a strict boundary. Shaitan was given no physical power to force a human to sin. Because he cannot use violence, his entire campaign is forced to be a covert psychological war. His first tactic is waswasa, the whisper. He doesn't start with a demand for major crimes. He uses subtle, creeping doubts to desensitize the target. He suggests a small compromise today so that a larger sin feels natural tomorrow. We see the playbook's first success in the story of Cain and Abel. Shaitan didn't provide the weapon, he simply nurtured Cain's envy over a rejected sacrifice, whispering to his jealousy until murder seemed like a logical resolution. Once he masters the individual, he moves to the society, using a tactic of moral rebranding. He frames disobedience as intelligence, redefines bad manners as bravery, and presents deviance as modern education. These massive, intricately carved rock tombs were the pride of the Thamud civilization. Shaitan used their engineering brilliance and their immense wealth to breed a terminal sense of arrogance. Because they were physically strong, he convinced them they were above the need for divine guidance. Shaitan's goal is to move the target past the sin itself, toward a state of pride. He wins when the human is not only committing an evil act, but is convinced that doing so is a sign of their own superiority. When this moral inversion is complete, societies reach a point of total decay. This lifeless, mineral-crusted shoreline of the Dead Sea marks the site where the people of Lot were destroyed. They had become so addicted to their own transgressions that they challenged the very idea of a moral limit. But Shaitan also has a playbook for the incorruptible. When dealing with prophets, standard temptation won't work, so he pivots to extreme psychological pressure. He attempted to logically dissuade Abraham during his ultimate sacrifice, and systematically destroyed Job's health and wealth. The goal wasn't to make them commit a crime, but to exhaust their patience and break their resolve. Even in a pious society, he finds the leverage point. When the Israelites were forbidden from fishing on the Sabbath, he used simple greed. He drove the fish to the shore in massive numbers, specifically on that day, using an economic lure to trick a religious community into breaking their law. Whether the target is a whole nation or a single prophet, the strategy is the same. Shaitan maps your psychological vulnerabilities and finds the one thing you value more than your principles. A classic allegory describes Shaitan preparing an arsenal of different ropes, psychological traps customized for every kind of person. The virtuous require thick, heavy ropes of sustained pressure to be dragged down, while those with no willpower can be led with a thread as thin as a single impulse. His most dangerous trap is the invisible thread of intellectual pride. This is reserved for the highly educated and the religious, convincing them that their knowledge makes them better than those around them. There is no universal temptation. Shaitan operates a bespoke operation, constantly adjusting his snare to match your specific greed, your unique anger, or your private vanity. For Shaitan, this is a race against time. His respite is strictly temporary, and every whisper he plants is part of a desperate scramble before an inescapable end. The climax of the playbook is an apocalyptic execution. At the end of time, the angel of death will corner Shaitan, clothed in the full weight of divine wrath. His punishment is calculated to match his crimes. He will be forced to simultaneously feel the combined death agonies of every human soul he successfully misled. The takeaway from Shaitan's playbook is that his greatest weapon isn't magic, it's our own ego. Because he fell through a single moment of arrogant pride, our only defense is the one thing he can never replicate: genuine humility.